Welcome everybody, I'm MC Toon, and this is my channel where it's always Tuesday night. I've got with me in the live, the live, it's not Planer Walk, hold on, that's not Planer Walk, that is, I'll fix that, that is Al Truther. Al, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good evening, Michael.
All right, I had some old text up there on top of you. You didn't want. All right, I'm great. Glad to hear that you are. You had debated Mark. I forgot Mark's last. What's his last name?
McFarlane.
McFarlane a while ago. Yeah, and I said, hey, how about we hook it up? And you said, oh, maybe not now, but
Yeah.
now it is. It came, the time came.
Well, that was my first debate, my only debate. I've only just started debating the subject or anything, to be honest. I've only had a Facebook profile up to now. I haven't got a YouTube channel. People aren't going to have heard of me. You had Jaren on a couple of weeks ago, which I watched. He didn't require an introduction, obviously. I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction because nobody's going to have heard of me at all.
All right.
So, yeah, I'm Alex Ogilvie. AKA Al Truther from Coventry in the UK. I gave myself the name Al Truther because I got fed up of being called a conspiracy theorist and a flirth. So that's just a little internet name I have. Yeah, I haven't got a big presence in the flat earth arena. I've been watching the wheels turn for about 7 years now, people debating. I've watched an awful lot of debates without getting involved myself. I decided to debate Mark because I've been living in a bit of an echo chamber for about 6 years. I admit this in Flat Earth, and I'd become lazy. And all of a sudden, Mark turned up on my friends list and started really, really questioning stuff. And I'm thinking, who's this guy, sort of thing. And then 2 arrived, and then 3. I've got about 4 now. So every time I put a Flat Earth post, they're there, sort of thing. So he was looking for a debate and nobody would debate him. And in the end, I said, I'll debate you. And then I pulled out because I got a bit nervous. And then I thought, oh, no, I can do this. And we agreed and we did it. And then my phone died. We didn't even get to finish. My phone died because my cat pulled out the charger slightly to stop it. I didn't realize it had been stopped. So our debate ended really abruptly. And we didn't get to finish. And there you were in the comments saying, well, seeing as you didn't finish your debate, how about debating me this Tuesday? And I was like, well, I'd genuinely not come across you at that time. So that was the first time I'd heard of you. I was more familiar with the UK guys, Simon Dan, Dave McKeegan, Fight the Flat Earth. I was aware of Red's rhetoric, but not too many of the UK, globe people, globe defenders, as I call you. So I said to you, yeah, very politely, no thanks, maybe sometime in the future. And since then, I've been watching your show. So I said it was about 15. I counted earlier because I went to my YouTube history. I've seen 18 of your shows now. So I'm very I'm very familiar with how you work. And I'm thinking to myself, you've had hundreds of debates. How on earth am I going to come on and make any impact whatsoever if someone like Jaren can come on and hardly make any impact whatsoever, get destroyed in the comments, then what impact am I going to make? So I've been trying to rack my brains of something different I can offer. And I want to try and offer a solution because this has been going on for 10 years now. And to me, this is not what wise, intelligent, sensible men do. They don't bicker and argue for 10 years. They get it sorted. So I'd love to see it sorted. Maybe some people don't want to see it sorted, but I'd love to see it sorted. So hopefully I'm going to come up with some sort of solution and maybe ask you what's your opinion on a solution as well.
All right.
So I'm new to coming on camera, so I'll do my best. A couple of hours is fine by me. I think any more than that, I'd start to burn out. But let me just say, I've got a history of landscaping and garden design. I've not got an academic or scientific history. I've got different skills in life that I'm very happy with, but academic is not one of them. So don't expect too much. I'm open about it. I'm not brilliant at it. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm aware how you work. So I've got to take that into consideration as well. You're not just going to let me come on here and speak esoterically, which is my strength, but and just, waffle on stories, that kind of thing. You want proof, you want evidence. I understand that. I haven't exactly got measurements of flatness, but maybe I can go away and bring back measurements of flatness at some point in the future, which I'll talk about later. But
Right.
I think that's about it. I think that's about it for an introduction. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for rearranging your usual Tuesday night to accommodate my UK time. I do appreciate that for doing that. So thank you for that.
All right. Well, Al sent me a list already and some pictures because she's just on a phone, so doesn't have a computer to. It's a little difficult to present screen when you're just on a phone. You can, but it's easier if you don't have to. So he sent them to me. I've got them ready. I will share them to you as you reference them, so you can see what it is that you're referring to. So
okay.
You wanna...
So go ahead and present my flatness.
All right. Your flatness. All right.
Well, we can argue about the sun, the moon, the stars, and all sorts of things, but of course, the proof of the shape of the Earth is in gravity, is in curvature. Sorry. Oh, you put one of the pictures up.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, well, I wasn't quite ready for that one yet.
Oh, is there a different one you want?
No, I don't need a picture just now.
Oh, all right. I'll stop that then. Hold on.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So, I mean, I've got about 8 points, I think, but the two main points are railway construction and curvature. That's where the proof is going to be in what the Earth is. It's in curvature. So water is the best way. And I've been watching all these videos and presentations and experiments and black swan and all that stuff. And all you get is arguments over refraction, atmospheric conditions, whether it was done at night or the day. It doesn't matter what people do. It kind of gets argued. So, I mean, if you take water, you start from small. You can start from a cup. You can start from a bath or an Olympic-sized swimming pool. At that point, water is flat and horizontal upon its surface. I'm going to try and avoid using the word level because I know you'll play devil's advocate. And you're actually right. Level can be from a curved surface, but that's in context. If you're talking about the context of a curved surface, then it can be level on a curved level, yeah. But of course, the context we're talking about is flat and horizontal upon its surface.
Yeah, because you know, surveyors have used the word level to mean a curved surface for centuries.
Yeah, sure. So where do you go with it? At what point does water start to curve? I saw your video the other day where you presented evidence of 0.4 miles and 2 inches of curve. So you're happy to go to them small levels, you know, them small measurements.
Yep.
2 inches.
Yep. That's the, you know, at much shorter than that, and it gets difficult to measure the amount because the instruments struggle to have the precision necessary.
Yeah. I mean, being a landscape gardener, I've actually constructed or helped construct large pools. So I've actually measured the flatness of water. I can say I've measured the flatness of water, but only over 60 meters. And that was with wooden pegs. And I'm sure you're familiar with a laser level used in building and construction. So that was done to millimeters of precision. Yeah. But that's only over 60 meters.
Yeah. And so what's the thickness of that laser at 60 meters? It's probably the thickness top to bottom of that laser is probably thicker than the amount of curvature you'd expect, right?
Yeah, but we wasn't measuring it. Yeah, that wasn't a curvature measurement, and of course you're not going to get much curvature over 60 meters. I'm just saying I've measured the flatness of water. That was what you would expect over 60 meters it to be perfectly level, because that is the characteristics of water. We know this. This is a known science. The question is, does it start to curve over 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 mile, 4 mile? That's the question. And then when you start to try and test that, it's very difficult to do it repeatedly because the conditions and refraction and all these sort of things could be. So it's not something someone can just keep going and repeating and go, look, same result, same result, same result. It's very difficult. And I'm trying to find a way of being able to measure water, taking them conditions, refraction, and atmospheric conditions out of the equation. Right.
So let me. I did the math real quick here. Over 60 meters.
Yeah.
0.28 millimeters of curve, of linear drop, not curve. So 0.28. So you know, I don't know. Is the laser thicker than 1 millimeter? Probably. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, we wouldn't even try and test the curvature of it. It's interesting that there is a figure, and of course, you're always going to find a figure because it's maths, isn't it? But I mean, how do we measure it over 40 miles? This is the question I'm asking, right? I found a stretch of canal in the UK. I looked for the longest stretch of canal in the UK without any locks. And of course, this is very similar to the Suez Canal argument. But I'm looking for somewhere in the UK where I can easily go and test it. So in the north of the UK, between Preston and Kendal, there is a 40-mile stretch of canal with no locks, which is the longest in the UK. So I'm thinking, how can I test that stretch of water?
What's that? What is there a name for that?
Lancaster Canal.
Okay.
The Lancaster Canal between Kendal and Preston, and it's the longest stretch without any locks.
And that's longer than Bedford?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, the thing is with the Bedford Canal, that was a site test. The canal I'm talking about is not straight. That was the Bedford Canal was. The Bedford Canal was unique because it was dead straight for 6 miles.
Okay.
So they sent the boat along there with the flag, row bottom. It's in the 1800s, wasn't it? Mid to late 1800s.
Yeah. Row bottom did it into the water.
Yeah.
And then when Wallace came along, Alfred Russel Wallace came along, he marked on a bridge a spot that was 13 feet above the water, 13 feet and a couple inches. And then he put in the middle, between where the observer was and where the bridge was, he put a pole. And on the pole, he had 2 circles. One circle that was 13 feet up and one that was less than 13 feet up, and then viewed it through the telescope.
Yeah, yeah. And that's actually one of my pictures. Number 7 is the Bedford levels.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, I've read
so
differing.
Yeah, the point is, if you I don't know how you would do it if it's curving. I suppose if it's meandering back and forth, you could figure out a couple spots that somehow line up.
But I'm talking about the whole stretch for 40 miles. It's a similar sort of distance that we're talking across the Michigan, Lake Michigan, to Chicago. There's a similar sort of distance, 40 miles. Right. What about putting a gyroscope on a boat and traversing the whole 40 miles? Create almost like a level boat with gyroscopes, levels, whatever you want, and traverse the 40 miles.
Just a second. For some reason my upload is not going on right now. People are saying the hamsters need toonshine. My upload is not the normal speed that it is. So let me check to make sure, because I stop some. I have some things that run sometimes and download stuff, and it takes bandwidth, so I stop it during the stream, but it stopped. And I'm still seeing poor output.
Okay, well, don't worry too much about that. That was just, that was just a reference of. It was just a reference to the Bedford Canal.
Yeah. But, all right. So what's the gyroscope going to do?
It will show. I know this is going to be argued, probably by a theory, but it will show that you haven't changed any elevation whatsoever over 40 miles. Now, when this happens in an aeroplane, the reason given is gravity is keeping the aeroplane going round this ball. Right? You can't do that on water. You can't use gravity as an excuse.
So
or reason.
A gyroscope doesn't measure elevation, though.
It would measure whether you're going down a hill. on a hill of water, as you.
A gyroscope doesn't measure hills either. It measures orientation.
Well, it is your orientation. You're going completely flat and level along a waterway.
So is your claim. But if, a gyroscope, if it's like this, then you move around to a different portion of the earth, it's going to change its orientation, regardless of the elevation, right? But if you're on a canal, the elevation stays the same, right? So a gyroscope would tell you whether or not the orientation changed over 40 miles, right? But it can't say anything about elevation.
It would surely show you that you're going anything other than level.
How is a gyroscope going to do that?
Because if you're going down a hill, it starts to move, does it not?
No, not if your orientation doesn't change. So if you, let's just get in an elevator so that we eliminate the horizontal movement, right? Because on a globe, if you move horizontally, a gyroscope should change its orientation. As long as you keep your orientation to vertical the same. But if you're just on an elevator, you're at an angle, and you move down, you're at an angle. You move up, you're at that same angle, right? So the orientation doesn't change if you're on an elevator. But if you're going around, right, here's a little, right, curve of the earth here, you move, same elevation on a globe, and then you're at a different orientation. So a gyroscope could measure that, but over 40 miles, that's not going to be a lot. It's less than 1 degree.
The curvature is less than 1 degree.
Yeah, you get 1 degree of curvature in 69 miles. So you need a very precise gyroscope, which exists, and flat earthers have used before and measured rotation. But you could and see how much changes.
What about some kind of leveling device? Other leveling devices?
There are leveling devices like an auto level, but auto levels, they met well. I've got this diagram here, right? On a globe, they would measure a drop with increasing distance, and in both directions. So when Wallace set up the Bedford level test that he did, he set up a telescope at one end, and he didn't level it. He didn't use it like an auto level. That wasn't his intention there, but that's the kind of thing that you would do. You go to one end, you set up an auto level, you sight the distance at the other end, and you see if that other end is at the same elevation above the canal, or if it's at a higher elevation above the canal.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so that would be a way to do it.
Okay, well, I'll look further into it because I want to go and prove it myself. There's no point in just living in an echo chamber, listening to other flat earthers saying they've done it, they've done the work. I want to go and do the work myself. I've been lazy. I admit that. I've been a lazy flirt for too many years now, and I want to sort something out.
Yeah.
So I can say I've done it. So why Jaron and his experiment, that was due to refraction, was it not? He didn't take refraction into account.
No, he did the math wrong. So normally 8 inches per mile squared is the wrong formula for what people are trying to do. But when Jaron did it, it was the right formula. He just didn't quite apply it correctly. So when he did it, I'll quickly explain it. He had his camera, he had the hole in the panel, and he had Enrique with the light, and they are all at 17 feet above the surface of the canal that he was next to. And for flat, then you should be able to see it. And you're right, he did not take into account refraction. So with refraction, actually, Enrique should be a little below 17. because refraction under normal circumstances causes distant objects to appear slightly higher. So something that's at, say, 16.5 would appear to be 17 over a distance of 5 miles or 3 miles. I'm just shooting out numbers there. I'm not, don't hold me to that specific number. But what Jaron did is when he did the math for what the globe predicts, he took the entire 3 miles and said, oh, let me apply 8 inches per mile squared across that whole distance. And that was the wrong way to do it, because the low point of the path of light was not at Jaron's camera. It was halfway between Jaron's camera and the panel. And that is a little non-intuitive to think about at first. But once you kind of think about it, and for me, once I thought about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. So anyway, so you do the math from Enrique to the point halfway between the panel and Jaron, which was 2.25 miles. And then the light starts to go up. And so then you subtract off that last 3/4 of a mile from the prediction. And so the no refraction prediction was 19.5, I think. The with refraction was 20, or the other way around.
Yeah.
Something like that. I have a web page where I go through all the math, mc2.net/interesting. Jaron still uses that term. He can't get away from it. Anyway, that's where I go over all the math. I have a Python program I wrote. So yeah.
I get it. Yeah, I've just got the interesting bit. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Why hasn't he been back? Why hasn't he been back and nailed it? This is my question. But again, we're waiting for someone else to go back and do something, aren't we?
2017. You know
a long time ago.
It's a pain in the butt. It's
where's
it yeah, and I understand his hesitation, right? Because if he's wrong, then all he does is confirm the ending of that movie, right? And if he's right, then what are we going to say? We'll say, well, you probably did the experiment a little poorly.
But he doesn't have to put it on Netflix again. He could just go back and do it independently.
I know. And maybe and I had this idea, and I don't know if it's true. Maybe he did. And maybe he's like, oh crap, that didn't work out right. I'm not going to publish that. I don't know. I don't think he did that, but people, definitely researchers do that. It's one of the problems with research. It's it's been a long-standing problem with research, where some research study gets funded, they have some sort of outcome that they're hoping for, they don't get that outcome, and then they just don't publish. Where you have people historically that did the opposite, Michelson, Morley, Michelson definitely was looking for a result, and he got the no result, and he still published. So good on him for doing that.
Yeah.
And there have been others. So,
well, I'll do the same if I found out myself.
Yeah. Now how would you? All right. So you thought a gyroscope, but that wouldn't do it. So anyway, so an auto level. Now auto levels are only rated for a certain distance, and people are like, oh, I can't use an auto level then because it's only rated for a certain distance. But what distance is a P1000 rated for? Nothing. There's no rating for that. So for some reason, people are like, well, I can use a P1000 that's got no rating instead of an auto level that does have a rating. It doesn't quite make sense. Because some people try, it's funny. Some people are like theodolites, and then they make claims about they only have a certain rating distance. They're wrong, because theodolites, unlike auto levels, don't have a rating distance. They just measure angles. So there's no distance limitation to measuring an angle.
Yeah. I've tried to research the construction of canals in the UK and the Suez Canal, just to try and find anywhere where it says they are constructed exactly level, or they are constructed to the curvature of the earth, and I just can't find anything.
Well, for surveyors, what does the word level mean?
Well, yeah, for surveyors,
level means curve. So, and
it doesn't mean curve. And it doesn't mean curve.
It does to surveyors. Within the realm of surveying, when the jargon that they use, level means curve. It's in books. It's all over the place. It's in a book I have on my website. mctoon.net/level. I have a scan from a book from the late 1700s, and I have a scan from a book that is the currently used book in surveying classrooms in universities. So
Is that not just talking within the context of a curve?
it's talking about the surface of the Earth specifically, is what they're talking about. So, and I understand that's that's the contention. The contention is it actually a curve or is it actually not a curve? So, how do you determine that? Well, a book doesn't tell us that, right?
No.
You go measure it. It's been measured, but where was I going with that? I forgot. I don't know. Canals and water. So the if the Earth is the shape you think it is, then water is flat. Then, right? And if the Earth is a sphere, then water is a curve. So the test is water. So water is the definition of the real definer of level.
Yeah.
So when you go to a canal, you're like, well, we're using water. So now the Suez Canal was surveyed ahead of time, and they looked up the elevation at the two ends of it. And they initially made a mistake. They thought that the south end was 30 meters higher than the north end, which turned out to be wrong. But one thing about canals is that tidal forces, tidal effects have a play in it, because the tides, the elevation of the tides is determined not just by, things that happen every day, but by the geography of the floor of the ocean underneath the water. So say you have a large amount of water that's moving into an area, right? And then it slopes up, and then you have this really shallow area. Well, this large amount of water now has to go into this shallow area, so it's going to cause a larger tide on this one side. So if the south end had higher tides than the north end, then that could cause some sloshing back and forth, and some flow between them. But they found out a couple things. They were in error in that survey that they did. So this was in the mid 1800s. And then there's the Bitter Lakes. Did you read about that? So the Bitter Lakes is a good sized lake. So the south end has some different tidal effects there, and the lake is a buffer against it, so you don't have this big slosh going up into the Mediterranean.
Yeah, the lake's about a quarter of the way up on one of the ends. Yeah, but I mean the globe predicts that in the middle of the Suez Canal it's higher than at both ends. It's an arc. How not?
It's an arc, but elevation is distance from the center of the Earth, right? So, well, if we go back to this, I just had this drawing sitting here. I'm it's from a previous debate. So
I think I saw it. Yeah, I think I saw it.
If you've watched 18 of them, so here we have this elevation here and this elevation here. These are two elevations, but if this is sea level, then it's 0 elevation and 0 elevation. There's no actual elevation change. It's an arc, but the entire arc has 0 elevation change, right? So to change elevation means you need to get farther away from the center of the Earth, right? And on flat Earth, it has a different meaning. But on the globe, it just means you get a different elevation or a different distance from the center. So the Suez Canal is an arc, and it is at sea level the entire way. But there is a flat earther, Patrick Butler, who talks about water mountains, but I'm pretty sure he's just being sarcastic.
For me, it's got to be flat and level and horizontal upon its surface from one end to the other. There's no other way that water can act. It cannot support itself in curves.
It doesn't support itself. The whatever pulls everything down is what does that. I mean, it goes back to Archimedes. talked about this, that the the least energetic position is for everything to be coalesced into a sphere. The least amount of energy, because everything is as close to the center as possible. So whatever's pulling it in, we could talk about that. It's not one of your topics, but something's pulling everything down, obviously. Right? You drop something, it falls. So whatever that is pulls water towards the center of the Earth, or whatever you think it happens on flat Earth.
Mm-hmm. No.
Have you seen the video of on the ISS of they put a bunch of water into a just floating there, and there's just like this little ball of water, right? And so what do you think is happening there?
CGI. It's on the ISS, mate. There's no way in the world. There's no way in the world I'm going to accept that the ISS exists. Not when the rockets are doing that. They can't be going to space. This is one of my photographs.
I know.
And one of my points. They can't be going to space if they're going into the sea. And this is, do you know, there's a reason I've made this point, Michael. There's a reason I've made this point about the rocket launch, because you don't need facts, figures, numbers, how far the rocket's going, the trajectory, rocket science, to see with your own eyes that that rocket cannot be leaving the Earth, because the Earth is too big and it's going like that visibly within our visible sight range, straight back down into the sea.
Right. But you don't see it going. You don't see it going into the sea, though.
Of course you don't. You're not allowed in the Bermuda Triangle. Look, you know.
That's not the only place. That's not the only place that they launch.
There's the NASA shuttle. But there's the NASA shuttle right in the Bermuda Triangle. Look.
Al, you can go in the Bermuda Triangle. There's nothing wrong going in there. There's no prohibition against going. In fact, that's where a huge amount of traffic happens in the Bermuda Triangle.
Another fallacy? Is it another fallacy?
What?
That it's a no-go area.
It's not, but it's not a no-go area.
Maybe it's just a no-go area on Rocket Day when they've got to clean up the mess. Maybe that's just the time you can't go in.
I'll tell you that there are areas where they say don't go there, because what if the rocket explodes? They don't let you go there. So a year and a half ago, I was in Florida, and we went to a rocket launch.
Yeah.
And there was a cruise ship that was leaving port a couple, like 2-3 hours before the launch, and they canceled the launch because that cruise ship was in the area that there could be an explosion. But it's not all of the Bermuda Triangle. It's just a stripe that's smaller. But that's not the only place where they launch, of course.
No.
Right. They launch from California. They launch from and when they do launch from Florida, they have different launch directions. In fact, the one I went to, we came back the next night and they did launch. It went south, almost due south. So the normal trajectory that would be closed was not closed where the Bermuda Triangle is. It was the other direction. It was south of it, because it was going into a different orbit. But Al, tell me how on a globe how something would attain orbit.
If you're going to tell me it's got to do a corkscrew around the globe and go up, that's just not believable. Well, but the trajectory
just answer for the globe, right? Because I can answer things for flat Earth, right? You can put on your "what if the Earth is a globe" hat, right? And you can answer that. I think you know the answer. So what would it be?
Well, it's got to shoot itself around the Earth once and then go up.
Well, orbit.
I don't know the technical term.
You're right, but it doesn't need to go up, because once it's in orbit, it just stays in orbit.
But right. It's not going it's not going around the globe, because the trajectory is too small. It's obviously going straight into the sea, because the Earth is not that small. If we lived on a tiny little Earth, then I'd maybe be able to buy it. But we don't even need facts and figures for this one. It's just visible that it's going into the sea. It can't be going anywhere else.
Did you do the analysis for what it should look like on a globe to see if it compares to reality?
It would go out of your view, yeah. It would go out of your view before it started to dip. It would have to, because the Earth's too big.
How
Can
do
we
you,
get the picture up?
but
Can we get the
yeah,
picture
yeah,
up?
I
Come on,
can do that.
this is one of my pictures, just so people can see it.
There it is. All right.
Number
All right,
6,
number
yeah.
6. There it is. I'll share it to you so you can see it. All right. So how is that, you know, quantitatively different than what the globe predicts? Like, did you do any specific analysis?
Well, finish the circle. Finish the circle, and you'll see that it's going straight back down within your view into the sea. It can't be going around the Earth. It would be going miles away out of your view.
But how high is it? How high is it there at the end of that? Do you know?
How high is it before it starts to come down?
No. What's the elevation of that rocket at the end of that trace that it's making across the sky? I don't know. Right. I know you don't either, but it's somewhere around maybe 100 kilometers. I don't even know what specific launch this might be. But I know that SpaceX's staging typically happens slightly below 100 kilometers. So if this was a SpaceX launch, then this would, because it doesn't look like there's any staging that's happened yet, then it probably is a bit under 100 kilometers. Now, the ISS is how high?
Ooh, how high is the ISS? I can't think off the top of my head. Is it 20 miles?
No, it's more than that. It's a bit over 400.
250.
It's
250.
Yeah. It's around 400, a bit over 400 kilometers.
Yeah, 250
right.
miles. Yeah, sorry, I don't know what I was thinking with 20 miles. No, that's
aeroplanes
about
10. I am the American here, using imperial units. What are you doing with miles?
Yeah.
Right? You do everything in metric other than stones. For some reason, stones is how you measure people's weight. But no, actually, you drive in miles, don't you?
Yeah.
That's weird inconsistency there. But everything else is mostly metric, right?
Yeah, we are a bit weird like that, admittedly. Yeah, it's just an English thing. They're different in Europe.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, a bit over 400 kilometers high. So right there, you're seeing about 100 kilometers high, maybe a little less. So at that point, it's mostly going horizontal and aimed up a little bit. And what it needs to do to attain orbit is it needs to get to where the centrifugal acceleration and the centripetal acceleration match. And that depends on elevation, how far it is up. At about 400, a bit over 400 kilometers, that is about 17,000 kilometers an hour. So it needs to get going sideways about 17,000 kilometers an hour. Now, these are rough numbers, okay? So, and it does not need to get a whole lot more elevation because it's 3/4 of the way there, or 1/4 of the way there, right? But there's not a lot of air left, so it's not quite as challenging as if there was air. But we don't know what this launch is. I don't know. You don't know the context, right?
They pretty much all look the same. There's pretty much the same arc every single time.
A lot do. But like if they're launching, like SpaceX launches a lot of Starlink satellites, and those are a much lower orbit than the ISS, I think, if I'm remembering that right. Versus like something going into geostationary orbit. Geostationary orbit is significantly higher than the ISS, much, much higher. So it needs to go higher. So we don't know what this one is, and we don't know quantitatively how it should look in either circumstance, right? That's what you would need to do.
We can only use our discernment. If we haven't got measurements,
But we can actually predict what it would look like on a globe, and but you didn't. You just are like, it doesn't quite look right. So, you know,
Do they launch over the land at all? Are they all over sea? The ones in California go over the sea as well. I mean, it makes sense, obviously, because so many of them blow up.
For safety, the United States launches over the sea. But
Yeah,
China
that does make
China
sense.
and Russia, they don't quite care as much. So Roscosmos is not over the sea, and if I remember right, neither is China. They're both over the land. I mean, obviously, at some point you're going to be over the ocean.
Well, if you've seen China's moon landing, then I wouldn't take Chinese space agency too seriously either. That really is PlayStation 1 graphics, the Chinese moon landing. I mean, it barely got covered. It was so bad it barely got covered.
So there are, and people get confused on this, and flat earthers go grab the video and post it as if it was claimed to be real. Post animations. So I have seen both Russian and Chinese moonlander animations that are labeled as animations that flat earthers have taken, removed the part where it says it was an animation, or if it's Chinese, they just left it because they don't understand Chinese, and said, look how fake this is. Well, of course, it doesn't claim to be real.
Well, why not? Where's the real footage then? Why do they need an animation, for goodness sake?
Because you don't send a film crew separate from the lander, right? So if you're going to land on the moon, all right, I'll take you. Are you ready for this one to come down? All right. If you're gonna land on the moon, right? You've got your lander coming down. You don't have next to it your film crew, 100 meters away or 10 meters away filming it, right? You've just got one thing landing. So you can't show the side view of that one thing landing from a view that's far enough away, like from a football game. You don't have that option because that would cost a whole lot more just to send along an extra camera on an extra lander.
Right? But they're filming Mars, apparently. Of course.
Yeah, but again, they're not filming it from the side. When they land on Mars, they're like, well, here's our animation of what's happening right now. And it's an animation because, again, there's no camera that's going along with it to get video of it.
They did it on the original moon landings. You had Neil Armstrong coming down the ladder. There was a camera there.
That was from the side. You're right. And so they had on the actual lander, they had an arm that they had to manually flip out to the side, and then that recorded him going down the steps, and that broadcast live back.
Broadcast live back in 1969. Where is your moon landing poster in the background, by the way? I'm looking. Looks like you've torn it. Looks like it's been torn up.
No, I've got it right here, right there. That's and one of them.
Oh, I'm covering it. My screen is covering it.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking on a phone, so yeah. And of course, one of them. There's two photos in there. One is the actual real photo of the footprint, and the other is not real. The other is an animation, and then the whole thing is a mock-up to look like a newspaper from the next day, but it's not. It's
yeah.
It has a date on it. It doesn't actually like name the newspaper, which of course anybody would have. It's just a piece of art that was given to me.
Yeah. Well, I do take my hat off to you for defending the moon landings and NASA in general with a straight face. Because to me, it's the biggest red flag. The biggest red flag. It doesn't prove the Earth is level. It doesn't prove the Earth is a globe. But it's the biggest red flag if they are lying. And they are clearly lying. Nobody is going to convince me that NASA is not a giant satanic Nazi-formed propaganda company.
Why?
Lying to us.
Why do you have to go there?
Why do I have to go there? Because it's damn obvious that they're not going anywhere. They haven't even done a 360 in space, for goodness sake. I went to the top of Warwick Castle. The first thing I did was get my iPhone out and do a 360.
So
and they can't even do it on the moon.
So if you ever received a 360, then you'd believe it?
it would be difficult to believe it at this point, of course, because they
Okay,
could do anything with CGI.
Okay,
but they haven't even done it.
But look, Al, if you're not gonna, if it's not something that would actually be, something you'd take as evidence, then don't cite it, right?
No, because it's not realistic.
Because Al, is that there are 360s, but you've already said that if I gave it to you, you'd reject it. So
there are not 360s on any of the moon landings or any of the ISS.
There are of the ISS, but there are not 360s of the moon landing. There are panorama shots where they walked in a circle, not a walk. They rotated in a circle and took pictures in a circle, and people have put them together in the panorama. So they have those. So if you're interested, I can send them, but you've already pre-rejected them. So
I was interested when I was a child, and to be honest, the first conspiracy I ever researched in 2010 was the moon landings, and that was before I was a truther, which was 2015. So 5 years before that, with absolutely no bias whatsoever, no reason to want it to be true or false. I researched my first ever conspiracy, and I came to the decision, very disappointingly, because I loved space, I loved moon landings, I loved anything like that when I was a kid, up to the age of about 10. And I was very disappointed to find that it was obviously fake. And in my head, I fell.
What do you mean, obviously faked? Right? That's super subjective. It's not.
I looked at the evidence. I looked at about 3 different videos on it, and I came to the conclusion, like you have to if you want to.
Wait, 3 different videos from moon landing deniers, right?
At that point, flat Earth wasn't even a big thing.
Yeah, I'm not talking about flat Earth. I'm talking about moon landing deniers. You watched 3 videos from moon landing deniers.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they were. I'm not sure if they were just people wanting the truth.
They were.
Well, I've
seen them, right? And Al, I get this all the time. People come on and they usually talk about flat Earth. They're like, oh, whatever. I tried to disprove it for days. Like, I know what they did. They watched more flat Earth videos for days. That's what they did. So when you're like, I tried to disprove the fake moon, that it was faked, and you did that by watching more videos that claimed that it was fake, right?
I honestly can't. It was too long ago to remember what videos I watched, and I haven't really been back to it and researched it properly, because fair enough, I came to the conclusion a long time ago, and then I got into truth and flat Earth, and of course I already knew the moon landings were fake in my head. So it's going to be very difficult to go back because it's not realistic.
Here's a question: how far away is the moon?
I've absolutely no idea. Nor have you.
I mean, flat earthers often make a claim that it's small and local. Do you think that?
I don't know what it is, but I don't know how close it is. No, look, I've had a P900, and I wouldn't say it's 234,000 miles away. Looking through a P900, you wouldn't get that sort of clarity.
Why?
I don't think you would.
Why?
It's too detailed. It's too detailed. Well, because I've looked at other things. I've looked at other things a lot closer and not been able to get the clarity
through the air. But if there's no air that's going to fuzz it up, then why would you expect there to be blurriness?
The moon is a complete mystery. I don't think anyone can confidently tell us what it is. If we could believe NASA and trust NASA, then we would know what it is, because they'd have the samples. But unfortunately, they gave the Dutch government a piece of bloody wood.
Oh, you didn't even look. Al, you're not a truther. You didn't even read that. Nobody claims that the piece of petrified wood was given to them by NASA. Nobody actually claimed that.
What do you mean nobody claimed it? The Dutch government claimed it.
No, the Dutch government did not claim that. If you were a truther, Al, you would have looked that up.
Well, but the story I read claimed that the Dutch government claimed that NASA gave it them.
No. All right. I have written up on my website a few things, and just links to the places that so let's see here. No, that's not it. What was his ambassador, right? I'm trying to find it so I don't want to just speak without actually just pointing to it. Oh, that's not it. Okay. Oh, I know. There it is. I bet that's it. There it is. Okay. I'll share this to you so you can see it. So there is the and I'm still having trouble with bandwidth. I don't know why. Don't know if it's going to get better or not, but we'll go for now. So here is there's an actual piece of moon rock there, but so they
liars claim that
that NASA gave a lunar rock to someone in the Netherlands. The claimed recipient was former Prime Minister Dries, who's claimed to have been given to him by U.S. Ambassador J. William Middledorf. However, NASA did not give out samples until after Apollo 11. It was years before they started giving out samples. There's no way this could have been an official sample. Here's an excellent overview of the situation in detail. But there are many authentic rock samples. Stop lying and look at the analysis of these. There's NASA's website for the lunar samples. They send out hundreds of samples per year. Go request one and publish your analysis. Right? If anybody was a truther and wanted to find out if the actual rocks were non-Earth based, they would get a geologist and have the geologist look at them, right? But it's not been done anyway. So here is the more detailed paperwork, or not paperwork, the website detailing the whole thing. So that it's got pictures of Dries. But here is this is the interesting thing, with the compliments of the Ambassador of the United States, J. William Middledorf II, to commemorate the visit to the Netherlands, Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, and Aldrin. Now, those are the astronauts, and they did go there. And then the International Exhibition of Congress Center, Amsterdam, October 9, 1969. Now, that does not say what it is. It just says something was given to them. Right? It doesn't say it was a moon rock.
Right.
Right? Then, this rock was in the case as well. Two things in the case. And here's the case. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the case. These items were in his drawer, in his possessions after he died. And then this diorama case was put together by an unknown person. We don't know who it was. But that rock is not claimed to be given to them as a moon rock. So how do we know what it is? Well, we don't. The rock is sitting on top of that piece of paper. Does that mean that was the rock? No, it was just jumbled things that were in the case, in his belongings after he died.
Well, this is the problem with anything really in the truth arena. You think you're onto something, and somebody's challenging it and saying, no, that's not right.
Somebody did the detailed research. So so the problem is, and I think you'll find, Al, that everybody is susceptible to confirmation bias. Right?
Yeah, of course.
And this is the process that people are tempted to do. And I see flat earthers do this all too often. They pre-select a conclusion. Right.
Well, I'm trying to get away from that myself.
Oh, yeah. And so pre-selecting stuff about the moon rock is not the right thing to do, right? Because then you get to step 2, where you accept supporting evidence. You go online, you watch a video, you do whatever, and you see somebody talking about the Netherlands moon rock, and then you're done. Right? And then you jump down to step 4. Right?
Yeah, I mean, this particular subject, it's not a biggie, is it? Just a bit of rock. It's just a story that came out that people latch onto.
So I would say, again, there are many authentic lunar rock samples. Look at the analysis of these. NASA's website for lunar samples. They send out lots per year. Go get a geologist. Flat Earthers as a community, go get a geologist if you think that it's crap. Hire one. They don't come for free, but you probably could get one that would love to look at some rock samples. And there you go. You can order up on the website, say, or contact NASA and say, well, we want to do some scientific research. Here's our proposal. Here's what we want to do. Right?
Wow.
That'd be fair, right? If you're like, well, I want to go do the thing for 40 miles at the north of England. Well, super. I like that. Somebody else could say, well, let's look at some actual lunar rock samples, but they don't. They just see, oh, the rock, the petrified wood of the Netherlands, and that's the end of it.
One thing is for sure, those astronauts' names are on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. You can't deny that one.
So
it's pure mockery.
It's not just actors that are on there.
Who else is on there that isn't a Hollywood actor?
I don't know. There's different people that are on there, not just actors. Of course, there's musicians. Right.
Another one I'll have to look into then.
One. Yeah.
Interestingly, on Werner von Braun's headstone is the Psalms 19 one.
I thought you were not going to bring up all the standard ones. I mean, this is seriously this.
No.
Al, this is like you went to Flat Earth summer camp and you got the pamphlet, and on day one, and you're just going through the pamphlet.
No, I was actually going to say it's not proof of anything. It's actually not proof of anything.
Oh, good.
Because it can be perceived two ways, right? Obviously, there's a quote about the firmament on his headstone. The accusation is that that's mockery. That's mockery because he knows the earth is flat. But it could be perceived in a different way. It could be perceived that he's mocking the Bible because they say it's flat, and he's saying, well, no, it's not because we've sent rockets out.
Well,
so it could.
I think
anything can be argued. Anything can be argued another way, and that's another example.
Well, that's true. Yeah, and if you want to determine the shape of the earth, you don't look at a headstone.
No,
right?
Of course
you go
not.
measure it. But even more than that, did it say firmament? Do you know what version of the Bible Werner von Braun read? He was German.
I did collaborate.
He was German. Maybe he read the German version.
Version?
And the word in German is not firmament. Because if you look at the translation history, it was transliterated from Hebrew into Latin. It was translated from Hebrew into Latin. Then the Latin used the word firmamentum. Right, so that you have an intermediate translation, and then that was transliterated into English in the King James. They didn't replace it with a different word. They took the original word and anglicized the word. So, but they didn't have that same translation history into German. So, was that his favorite verse, and did he read it in English? And if he read it in English, was it the King James English? Because not all translations, even of the time when he died, use the word firmament. Some use the word expanse. Some use the word sky.
I saw the other day that the gravity is it Greek? Is translated as weight.
The word gravity?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's translated. Yeah. So I'm sure that was Greek. The other day it's translated as weight, which fits in with the density, buoyancy sort of argument. I don't think it needs to be any more complicated than density and buoyancy. You're grinning. I know you're grinning, but it's really simplistic.
I have a $10,000 challenge.
Oh, what's that one? Another one.
I have two that are pretty serious. The gravity challenge. It's gravity predicts a certain magnitude of the downward acceleration, and it varies all over the earth, and the prediction for it varies all over the earth based on elevation and the rotation of the earth at that location. So I take those two things into account, and I have a prediction method using the globe. And then the challenge is, will you flat earthers who say that gravity doesn't exist, provide your prediction method, whatever you need, whatever it is that does it. And then all over the earth, there have been measurements of gravity already done. People have done this for decades. And so we just use 10 of them. So I provide 5, you provide 5 of these select measurements that have already been done, right? So you don't have to go do anything. You don't even have to leave your room. And you say, well, I want to use the gravity measurement from Fortaleza, Brazil, right? I gave an example in my video in Fortaleza, Brazil. I also gave one in Kauai, Hawaii, and another one in International Falls, Minnesota, for how I predict it. Now, those aren't necessarily the 5 that I'm going to pick for the challenge, but that's the point. So you get the 5, I get the 5, we get together, there's 10. Whoever has the closest prediction to the actual measured values wins. If you enter and I win, you lose nothing. If you enter and you win, $10,000.
Uh-huh. So what? How are they predicting gravity? How are they measuring gravity? Supposedly,
they use an accelerometer. So there's two main kinds: the absolute accelerometer, or they call it a gravimeter, but it's just an accelerometer. It measures the acceleration, and they do that by dropping something in an evacuated chamber. It's at a specific temperature. And there's essentially 2 lasers, right? So they drop something, it crosses one laser, it crosses the other laser, measures the time that it took to drop between them, applies a kinematic equation to get, that's how you measure the magnitude of acceleration. And then that outputs the actual acceleration. The other is typically through super precise scales that are often piezoelectric, that are then calibrated against these absolute gravimeters or absolute accelerometers.
And who are these people that are doing it? Who are they?
They're often graduate students or bachelor's degree students at universities that are out there doing it. I imported into my spreadsheet 50,000 measurements from Minnesota. And the people that did this were the grunts doing work at the University of Minnesota.
Well, they're students. They're going to believe anything. They're doing science degrees.
They're
given the instruction.
All they're doing is reporting what the machine read. That's it. And you can verify. But Al, you can verify the downward acceleration yourself, right? Do you have an iPhone or on an Android?
iPhone, yeah.
Okay, so your phone can record 120 frames per second, right? So go somewhere, record, set it vertical videos, and then bring a friend along and hold something heavy above, from some elevation, 10 meters up or 20 meters up or 5 meters up, whatever you can do, right? And then drop it. And use the frames to measure how long it takes to fall from when you drop it until it hits the ground. And then you can just apply the kinematic equations to determine the magnitude of downward acceleration. Right?
I wouldn't understand the equations to know that I'm getting the result. So it's not something I'm going to do. The people making these machines, though, they're coming from the very top, right? You're a man of faith. You believe in creation. I believe in creation. I know I'm going off piste a bit here, but I'm making a point. These are the people that are giving us bones of half monkeys, half men, saying this proves evolution. I don't believe them, Michael. I'm sorry, but I don't live in a world where I can believe.
But that's a whole different field, Al.
I know.
Biology versus physics. The physics people laugh at the biology people because it's such a soft science. All right. There's some camaraderie between them. I'll just say. Right?
Well, that's interesting to hear, but it's still coming from the very top. I mean, Big Bang evolution is bollocks.
Yeah. True. And so the physics people are the Big Bang people, and the biology people on the other end of the hard science spectrum. if you will allow me to call biology a hard science. I know the biologists are going to get mad at me for that.
Astrophysicism isn't hard science, Michael. Come on, man.
It certainly is.
Mishukoki, whatever his name is.
It's absolutely a hard science.
Guesswork.
So how do you test a hypothesis? Well, how do you formulate it? How do you get a hypothesis? What did Feynman say about how you get a hypothesis? Do you know Feynman, right?
The name rings a bell, but I'm not big on knowing about him now.
Really? All right.
I've heard the name.
He was a pretty good science communicator from the 60s and 70s. Is pretty popular. So all right. Let's see. I'll get this video of him and how long is that? Oh, it's 10 minutes. That's not what I want.
How are we doing for time? How are we doing for time?
We got
an hour.
Yeah, a little less than an hour. All right. I tell you what, I'll just play the audio of it. And pay attention to how he says you start your hypothesis. So let me find it here. It's not too long. All right, here we go.
I'm going to discuss how we would look for a new law. In general, we look for a new law by the following process. First, we guess it. Then we well, don't laugh. That's really true. Then we compute the consequences of the guess to see if this is right, if this law that we guessed is right, we see what it would imply. And then we compare those computation results to nature. Or we say compare to experiment or experience. Compare it directly with observation to see if it works. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. And that simple statement is the key to science.
There you go. So you guess. It's perfectly fine to guess at a hypothesis as long as you can test it.
But most of the stuff involving the globe cannot be tested. The sun, the moon, and the stars.
But that's totally wrong. You can test them.
You can't do practical experiments.
Sure, you can.
Not that you can't. You can't.
Here's a guess. Here's a guess. Let's guess that you could bounce radar off the sun. Right? Is that a guess? Is that testable?
You can bounce radar off the sun.
Yeah. Is that something that you could test?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, it's testable. And you know, the key to science, and so Feynman said it, and then also Karl Popper talks about it, the key to science, one of the essence of it, is that you can test things. Right? So if something isn't testable, then they're like, well, that's not really science. That kind of falls into metaphysics or religion or spiritual things or superstitions or whatever. So you know, astrology, right? The idea that the day that you were born somehow determines your personality, and somehow that then affects what particular things are going to happen to you today. Well, that's somewhat moderately testable, but in general, that's like, well, that's not really science. People are like, that's not science.
No, it's not. It's something I very much believe in, but it is a belief. It is a belief.
That is. All right. So can we bounce radar off the sun? Well, people tried it, and I'll show you the results here. So there you go. So radar bounces off the sun. So the paper was called Radar Echoes of the Sun. Right. Let me make sure I'm sharing this. All right. And then so they built this array. You see this antenna array here? It's a pretty big array. You can see the individual, each one of these things is an individual antenna, right? So it's this pretty big antenna there, and they sent a radar of a specific frequency, 38 megacycles per second. That's just megahertz. They did it about 1,000 times, And they sent the radar and they got a signal back. And I think this one here, I can show you the signal they sent and then what came back from it. There it is. Okay. So so they sent this pattern of a signal, and they got these kind of triangular shaped things back, which is how they know that it was from them and it wasn't just noise. So there's 4 different graphs. You can see the top right one there is a little mangled. So they did it about 1,000 times. So this is just a sampling of them. And then the bottom right gives like the expected with, perfection version. It's got the dashed line there. You see that? And it might be hard on your phone. So anyway, then there's a whole sawtooth graph there of what they did. Here, I can zoom in a little.
So what does this experiment prove?
So this was
Distance?
them. Well, it establishes a few things. Establishes that the sun is a physical object somewhere that bounces radar. The amount of time that it took for the signal to bounce back, and knowing the speed of light and speed of radar, then we know how far away it is approximately. So anyway, those are the cool pictures. Anyway, this is on my website, mc2.net/sun. Of the 18 debates, you haven't seen this one yet?
No.
Oh, all right. I need to keep it up. I need to send more. Because this is a good one. Anyway, the power was 500 kilowatts. Some people have said that isn't powerful enough. So then I asked them, well, then what's the EIRP analysis of that? Which is how you analyze whether or not something would be powerful enough. They're like, I don't know. So they don't know. Nobody actually did an analysis to support the claim that it wouldn't work. Anyway, it took about 16 minutes from when they sent it until they started getting the signal back. That's about 1,000 seconds. And so I do the analysis here. I won't get into it too much. One of them said 16 minutes, which is 960 seconds. Another one said 1,000 seconds. So taking the average of that, we get 980 seconds plus or minus 20. Divide that in half, use the speed of light. That gives us 146 million kilometers. Right, that's because it took that long for the light or the radar to go that far and back. So there you go. That's a testable hypothesis. How far, can we bounce radar off the sun? Well, people did that. So it's perfectly reasonable to guess and then test it. And if they had sent it and it didn't bounce, then they would have a different conclusion to that test.
And how did they measure so they confirmed that the 93 million miles was correct. Is that what you're saying?
That was one of the side effects of that, yeah.
How did they originally measure the 93 million miles? The
earliest ones that were accurate, they used the transit of Venus. So those are the earliest ones. There's a good amount of trigonometry to that. And I'm, I don't think you're quite into the trig.
No.
So going over that wouldn't probably be beneficial to you. But people that understand the trig have gone over it. If you're interested, I'd be glad to give you a link to a good explanation for it. It's still a bit like, I don't know. Did you take trig in school much?
No.
So yeah.
Probably. Well, I remember only at a basic level, 15, 16-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, the thing is though, trigonometry's been around for thousands of years, is it not? So how did they get the measurements wrong when they were saying the sun was 12 million miles? And then they said it doesn't really matter what distance the sun is, it all still works. You can apply all the different distances and it all makes it work.
Yeah, so the way some of the earlier distance measurements were pretty sloppy because they didn't have precise timings of the transit of Venus, which was one of the ways that they got a real good measurement. Of course, they didn't have radar to bounce off the sun to count how long it took. So they used the phases of the moon. They're like, all right, well, on this day, the moon is half phase. And well, that has kind of a slop of one day either direction. So if you pick the wrong day, that changes by 1/28th of the moon's phase, you know, because there's about 28 days per phase, of how much it is, so that your slop is there a little bit. And what that established is the ratio between the distance between the Earth to the moon and the moon to the Earth moon system to the sun. So it just gave us a ratio. So once you know the ratio, then if you know the distance to the moon, you can apply that to the ratio. Well, they also didn't have a very precise distance to the moon. So when they did the actual ratio application, the ratio was pretty good, but the distance to the moon was not very good. So the distance wasn't great. But that's the thing about science, though, Al. We're always looking to improve it. And so if it was wrong before, or there was an error in it before, somebody's going to come along. The door is open. Hey, I think there's an error there. I'm going to fix that, and I'm going to get all the street cred for showing the right way to do it.
Well, they've just changed, I'm sure you know this, they've just changed the age of the universe from 14 billion years to 26 billion years, which is just ludicrous. It's ludicrous, man.
I think that's preliminary. I don't think that everybody's like, hey, yes. So I haven't actually looked in detail into that. I don't really care a whole lot. It's billions of years old. Super. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me.
Because
it doesn't matter the shape of the Earth.
The problem is with science, though, and you've just said this, they're always improving. People walk around quoting it as fact. Well, the universe is 14 billion years old. In another year, they'll be walking around saying it's 26 billion years old. This is my problem with it. Hey, people say they've got the facts, and they haven't got the facts whatsoever.
You know, when people, right, if people were to say it was proven, then that would be a way too strong of a statement, right? Yeah. Science doesn't claim proof. In reality, because if science ever did claim proof, that would mean that nothing could ever improve upon it. But the whole thing about science is that everything's falsifiable. So if it's proven, then that no longer is falsifiable. Therefore, it's no longer something that science can work on.
No. And of course, that's one of your big things, falsify it. If you think it's fake, falsify it. And many people like myself haven't got the ability to falsify it and know that they're correct on it. So it's a very difficult position to be in. Look, while we're on the sun, can we move on to one of my next points?
Sure.
Let's move on to the one that really gets my goat every time I hear you say it. The sun can never set on a flat Earth.
Hey, you said it. I love it. Thank you. You're right.
Well, I've got a serious problem with this, so you can bring up my photographs. Number one.
Number one. All right, hold on. I pulled up number 8, but let me. All right, number 1. There you go. Okay.
Okay, so what your mantra is, every night flat Earth is falsified when the sun sets.
Yes. Yes, it is.
My mantra is every day when I look at the clouds, like in this picture, a flat Earth sun is possible. Because these clouds show right down to the horizon in layers that when they move away from our perspective, they get lower and lower and lower and lower until they go beyond the horizon, beyond our visibility. My claim is the sun can do exactly the same thing. It's not an issue. And go on to my next one, please, number 2. So through the middle of that photograph, you've got lovely clouds layered, getting lower and lower and lower. If you go to, and if you go to my next photograph, number 3, if you look at the roof of that house, you can see the clouds get lower and lower and lower, and you can see half the cloud. This is exactly what happens if you take that rooftop as the horizon, and when you look out to sea, right? I can see him laughing, right? That's why you can see half. That's why you can see half a sun. Just imagine that rooftop is the sea, and the sun's moving away and away like the clouds. Eventually, you're going to see half a sun. Eventually, you're going to see no sun. And if you want to go to number 8 now, I think it's number 8, the one you just had on. there we have evidence of the sun being different sizes, which is impossible if it's 93 million miles away. You wouldn't see different sizes. This changes all over the Earth depending on where you are. If you're on the equator, you're going to see a different size sun. If you're somewhere else, you're going to see a different size sun. So these photographs, I believe, are real. They're not my own photographs, granted, but there's plenty more of it.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't say it all has to be yours. That's more of a flat earth defense when something is presented. So, okay. So let's look at this one here. All right. I mean, this goes to the water mountains that Patrick Butler talks about. Because on the ocean, you don't have that spiky roof. Right? You have, unless there's a hurricane or a tsunami, you have waves that are generally not higher than you. Right. And so where you're standing, that house is, the top of that house is probably higher than the photographer. Right. Hard to say for sure, but right. Is this, this is the photo. So the photographer's standing on the road.
That's my photography. That's actually my,
All right. So you were standing on the road, right?
Yeah.
All right. And that house is, the top of that house is probably taller than you, right?
It wouldn't matter if the house was a lot lower. You'd still get the same effect.
But you used something that's sticking up to block the clouds, right? Like, for example, the curve of the horizon. If the Earth was curved, then a curve would be blocking it. And I know a lot of the time people use like some sort of a hallway. They show the picture of the hallway with the lights in the hallway.
Yeah. It's a good one. Yeah.
And so then it's I ask, well, when, at what distance will the floor half obstruct one of the lights? Right? Not the building that's not flat, right? Because you don't claim that the surface of the earth is surface of the ocean is spiky. You claim it's flat outside of waves. So I mean, with the hallway, how far away does the light need to be? The light that's hanging on the wall, for the floor to obstruct it.
I don't think there's a hotel big enough, but I think it would eventually happen.
You think it eventually would happen? So the problem is, of course, in those photographs, and this will get up to number 8 here, that each of those light fixtures on the wall gets smaller as they're farther away. They don't actually ever get partially obstructed. That never happens. Right? Nobody's ever shown. They eventually get to where, like, if you had a hallway that was super long, then everything just gets too small to see, and you just see this line of light fixtures that's just smaller and smaller. So you never see a light fixture that's partially obstructed by the floor. Right? So then you have this one.
Never been...
Right? So this one, you're saying, watch the sun, think about the sun, right? It's getting small. What's getting smaller there, though? On the top left, those 6 pictures on the top left.
Yeah.
What are we seeing there?
We're seeing the sun go further away and get smaller.
Okay, but are we seeing the size of the sun?
It's the angular perspective.
Or are we seeing the size of the glare?
You're talking about atmospheric lensing?
No. The glare. No? Here's a photograph I took at a store near my house. You see that? How big is that light? Could I draw a line on either side of that light and say that's how big the light is? Would that be how big the light is?
Let me get my glasses on. It's a bit blurry.
All right.
Oh, it's a brick wall. I wondered what the hump was.
It's a CVS. CVS is this chain of convenience stores in the United States here.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't work out what it was. So that's a light, and that's the glare from the light beneath
I'll
it.
Zoom in here. Yeah. So if I were to draw a line on either side of this shiny part, not the bottom where it's shining on the wall, not that. The top part here, where it's got kind of the oval kind of shape. If I drew a line on either side of that, would that be the size of the light?
Yeah.
Or would that be the size of the glare? Well, I went back a different time when there during day. And there it is during the daytime.
Uh-huh.
So, all right, let me make sure it's 100% there. And 100%, no, there we go. All right, same position. I actually set it on something so it'd be the same size and same distance away, right? There's like a little, I think it was a generator or no, not a generator, a transformer, electrical transformer. I set it on the corner of it. So there you go. There's the two. And I actually did a little comparison. So there is the actual on the bottom, the actual width of the light between those black bars. And then at the top, you can see the glare gets significantly wider than those two black bars.
Right.
Right. So you're seeing the glare. The light isn't actually that big on the top.
And is the glare from atmospheric lensing? Because
No.
the air is generally essentially liquid.
No, the air is not liquid. The air is a gas. And this is just a few feet away from it.
No, but there's liquid in the air, isn't there?
There's not, unless it's raining or there's fog, there's generally not liquid in the air. There's water in the air, but it's gaseous water.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. But that does cause atmospheric lensing, doesn't it, as well?
No. Gaseous water in the air is just gas. It's transparent, just like oxygen and nitrogen.
So what's causing the glare then?
The light is too bright for the sensor on the camera. It's blowing out all the neighboring pixels because it's getting so much light into that area. That's what's happening.
Yeah, but
that's glare.
You can see it with your own eyes, though. That would be different with your own eyes than the camera glare.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. But you don't have here photographs taken with your own eyes. You only have photographs taken with a camera. Just like this is a photograph taken with a camera.
I think you can observe it. You can observe it with your own eyes, though.
Yesterday I drove into the sunset as I was returning from Milwaukee. I was in Milwaukee overnight, and we drove back, and so we drove from 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. until whatever late, and the sunset. So I watched it as it set. And no, you could see it was slightly cloudy. You could see the sun did not shrink in size, but I can do better than that even.
But from different points of the Earth, the sun can be huge on the sunset, and it can be tiny. That doesn't make sense. That's with your own eyes.
It's all glare. So let me show you with the solar filter.
This is my comeback.
Come on.
This is what Red's Rhetoric did. He filmed the sun all day through a solar filter, so it didn't change in size.
Yeah, this isn't the one. This does have one by Reds, but it's by several different people. All right, so this right here, this is by Felipe Rockholt, who is a flat earther, lives in California. And I mentioned, hey, why don't you get a solar filter? Because he was doing sunrise and sunset.
Yeah.
And it was getting blown out. I said, well, get a solar filter. So we got a solar filter. And this was the sunrise that he filmed with the solar filter. You see how the size is not dramatically changing? Right? And then he switches to a midday here in a second. And this is sped up. I sped this up significantly to make the video a little more interesting. So, all right. There you go. This is sun rising at 45 degrees. So this is later in the day. It's somewhere in the middle of the sky. Right? And then he does it later again and shows it setting. So this is a flat earther with a P900 or P1000 and a solar filter. So, yeah, and JB is saying it's not just glare, it's also focal length. And so, yes, this is, and you can see on the, here, I'll back it up just a little bit. You can see the bottom of it. I don't know if you can see it on your screen, but the bottom edge of this is a little jaggedy. And that's because it's setting. and the time of day, or the conditions that have the most refraction are over water, near sunset, and later, when it's been sunny. And of course it's been sunny because you can see the sun without clouds in front of it. And then you can see the bottom of it is getting some effects due to refraction over the water. So again, this is Felipe. Now he blocked me after this.
So this is a flat earther that has been honest. Is that what you're saying? He's been honest and said it doesn't change. I've done it myself.
He just posted. Yeah, he posted it, and I don't know know what he says about it because he blocked me, and I haven't gone to his channel for a while. All right, this is just a collection of other people then, and again, this is the sun setting. You can see goes in front of the trees. Yeah, it's not shrinking to a point. Right? It's setting in front of the trees. Or behind the trees. That was Z Melkus, something like that. So we got another one coming. Here's from Wolfie. So this is this is a P900 and an equatorial mount. So it's tracking the sun. It's moving with the sun. And I'll jump ahead here. So there's clouds. Clouds in front of it.
Yeah. Wolf is the Australian guy, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
Yeah, I know him.
So there you go. You can see the different effects of the sun, and the camera's trying to make adjustments in exposure because of the clouds going in front of it. So it's, as it gets a little darker, then it increases the exposure.
That's a silly argument, by the way, when flat earthers say that we can see clouds behind the sun. That is real science. When the difference in the cloud density, it doesn't show up against the sun when they're too thin.
Yeah, but you didn't.
I never fell for that one.
But you didn't. But you put it in your meme that you sent me. It's right there on the right side. That's exactly what the flat earthers are saying in this particular meme. They're like, the sun is inside the clouds. They're claiming.
Oh no, I'm not saying that. I was interested in. I was quickly looking for some decent photos on the left.
All right. Well, yeah, you forgot to chop that out. All right. Anyway,
the sunspots is interesting though. The sunspots on the cloud. I have
a P1000 that I'm borrowing still, and I have a solar filter, and I've got photographs with sunspots. It's pretty cool. Because they stay around consistently throughout the day, but they move. They're in different locations. All right, then this one is from Red's Rhetoric. He just took photographs. This isn't a video. He has done a more recent one where he has a video. But you can see throughout the day, the sun isn't shrinking to a point or coming from a point at sunrise and going to a point at sunset. It's being obstructed by the horizon. So...
The angular size of the sun is the size from our perspective, isn't it? Yeah. And then obviously there's the actual size. Yeah. To be honest, I've only learned that in the last month what the angular size meant watching Oakley.
Wow.
Because he could.
All right, there you go. There's his overview.
I'm trying to learn the science, and I want, this is one that I will have to do myself because obviously this is second-hand evidence, but I'll have to do it myself.
Do you have a P1000 or P900?
No. Oh. I had a P900, but I got rid of it. But I needed the money. But I did have one, but I didn't do anything on the sun.
I would say that learning from Oakley is the wrong place to learn, even for flat earthers.
No, but I've learned what the angular size is, and that's not disputable. That's just a factual thing. So I'm just saying I learned that particular thing.
Yep.
But I like Nathan.
That's a problem.
Have you debated it? Have you debated him, by the way?
He doesn't allow debates. Do you know that?
What do you mean?
He does not allow debates. He has an amazing ability to sense when a debate's about to break out, and then he interrupts.
Oh, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. He doesn't allow a debate to flourish.
Yeah, he won't let it happen, and then he'll say. He'll say all sorts of things, like he might say this.
Now I'd like to know how my balls taste.
Right, to get off the topic of a debate. And I just have to, and maybe if you talk to him, say, Nathan, take a yoga class. That'll probably help him answer that question. Uh, somebody's got to deliver that message to him. So, all right.
Well, I like him and he's very entertaining.
Oh, jeez.
You've got to be entertained in this field, otherwise it gets fucking boring.
I am entertained, but not Oakley. Oakley's just a horrible person. I don't. Oh my gosh. All right. I've got a couple things. We got about a little less than half an hour, and then
right.
if you're interested, FTFE is going to be going live as I'm wrapping up. Let's see here. Did he? Oh, he canceled his stream for today. Well, anyway, I do need to wrap up. I have to mow the lawn. We gotta make some food and stuff. So, well, let me see if there's anything from the audience, if you don't mind. How about that?
Oh my goodness, please! I wasn't going to bother reading the comments.
Well, it's probably wise to not watch the live chat. Flat Enough says me, why don't you deliver the message to Oakley myself? I have offered to debate Oakley on a third party platform like Modern Day Debate, which I don't go on. I have sworn off Modern Day Debate, but I made that offer to him before I said no more Modern Day Debate, so I'll keep that. So as it sits right now, I have an open offer to Oakley and to Dubay to go on Modern Day Debate.
Have you ever debated someone from the UK before?
Oh yeah.
You have?
Oh yeah.
Who? I've not seen one, but
no. Oh well, the time zone is a little bit of an issue. Spurs. Who else? Spurs Chemo. Do you know him?
No.
Let's see. I've people help me. Who've I debated from the UK? I debated a guy named. He was also named Al. Alan King.
No.
I think that's his name.
Right. Can we move on to my next point?
Oh, all right. Let's
just a quick one.
Sure.
I don't want to spend too. I don't want to because we've only got half an hour left. But I want your take on the NASA documents, the aviation documents, the military documents, aerospace documents, stating that the Earth is flat and stationary multiple times. What is your take on that?
Well, I have it on screen right now. Let me.
I've got one of my photos. Is
there you go.
Just a snippet.
All right, so right there, Professor Parks, PhD. Have I debated Raichi? I have. It's coming up on 2 years since I debated Raichi. There you go. Raichi's from the UK. Okay. All right. So let me. I love this one. I read. I'm guessing you were unaware of this. I read all 44 of the documents that Dean Odell and Nathan Roberts did. And you can find my summary of them, mctoon.net/gov docs.
You've covered everything. I knew you would have, but
right there.
I just wanted your take. I wanted your take on it,
including the one that you did, which is derivation and definition of linear aircraft model. That's the screenshot you grabbed, and it's from page 35 is the conclusion that the concluding remarks right there, right? You see that?
Yeah.
This report derives and defines a set of linearized system matrices for a rigid aircraft of constant mass, flying in a stationary atmosphere, no wind, over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Both generalized and standard linear systems equations are derived from nonlinear 6-degree of freedom equations of motion and a large collection of nonlinear observations, measurement equations. Now, there are 5 things that are assumed in this. These are simplifying assumptions. Number 1, rigid aircraft. There is no aircraft that is rigid. They're all flexible.
Yeah.
If you're ridden on an especially a large airplane, you'll see the wings droop when you land, and they bend up when you're in the air. Number 2, constant mass. That would mean that no fuel is consumed. Now I know that some people claim that fuel, that talk about, oh my gosh, these people are crazy. They don't think that aircrafts use fuel, which is
no,
totally nuts. All right, that's number 2. Number 3, flying in a stationary atmosphere. It does not take into account wind. Does that mean that wind doesn't exist? Did NASA admit that wind is a hoax by saying they did not include that in their analysis? No, what they're doing on all 5 of these assumptions, the flat non-rotating Earth included, right? So all 5 of them, they said, look, we did not include analysis of these 5 things. If these things are necessary for your work, you will need to include them in your analysis because we did not do it for you, right? So wind is a fantastic one, right? Some airplanes, small ones especially, they don't like lots of wind, right? A faster airplane that flies at 80,000 feet won't care about wind quite as much because it's above where wind is a factor. So you don't know, they didn't know when, what wind would be happening, and they didn't include it in the program. So this is just some software that they wrote.
I'm not sure they're talking about wind. They're talking about the atmosphere not spinning with the Earth, surely.
No. So a stationary atmosphere. Stationary atmosphere means no wind. That's what that means.
Oh, that's just a play on words. No, I'm not having that.
This is an engineering document. They don't play words in engineering documents.
They would write wind. Stationary atmosphere, and it's talking about alongside a flat non-rotating Earth.
Yes,
they're talking about
an engineer reading this understands very clearly what they're talking about here. That these are the things, they're called the simplifying assumptions or an idealization. Here you go, philosophy of science. I even included thing in here. In philosophy of science, idealization is a process by which scientific models, that's what this is, assume facts about the phenomenon being modeled that are strictly false, but make models easier to understand or solve. It is determined whether the phenomenon approximates the ideal case, then the model is applied to make a prediction based on that ideal case. So that's what they're talking about. This is they're simplifying assumptions or idealization that they're doing here. And all of them do the same thing. But we can have a look at, let's see. It's number 7. If you do like that document, I think you will then also like that on pages 7, 8, and 24, they talk about gravity. Now, if mass attracts mass, which is what gravity is, then the Earth collapses into a sphere. So are you going to cherry pick away the inclusion of gravity in this document? Or are you going to include the whole document and say, well, this whole thing is telling us something, right?
Acknowledge gravity, right? And is that on exactly the same document that I just showed?
Yeah, that's because the whole thing, in fact, the one that Nathan provided, Nathan Roberts, is not searchable. I found one that's got searchable text right there. So I have 2 copies of it. People like to claim like, oh, they moved them, they tried to hide them. No, I mean, links break all the time. That's what happens. So
because I tried to find one where it literally says the Earth is flat and stationary, and it can't be argued, but I couldn't find it anymore.
They're all here. Every one of them is here.
There's one that literally says the Earth is flat and stationary. No. Without it being cast off as some assumption. Because I've heard people argue this.
I've read them all.
I've heard people argue that they're just saying that it doesn't make any difference to the aircraft, so therefore you just assume it's flat and non-rotating. But I'm not buying that argument either.
It is saying we don't know your specific use case. So if your specific use case needs any of these things that we've done as simplifying assumptions, then you will need to take them into account. We did not. So for wind, for example, the application that they wrote does not include an input for wind. Right? And it does not include an input for rigidity of the aircraft. Typically, they treat the aircraft as a point mass source, which is not correct. but it is close enough for most calculations. But now, for example, let's say that you were going to model an airplane that had some bullet holes in one of the wings. What will happen if there's a bullet hole in some of the wings? Well, you'll have extra drag on that wing, and you'll have less lift on that wing. Well, a simplified application of flight characteristics won't include that. You'll need to do that yourself. But this program doesn't have any inputs for somebody else's plane design for what happens when you get some unknown yet amount of drag in a wing and an unknown amount of modification of lift in that wing. They would need to do that if they had to do that as part of their project. Right? But then you can't use it as a point source. It's now the plane is acting differently and it's no longer balanced. Right? Or you've seen it in movies, one of the engines will die. Then they keep flying with less engines. If it's like a jet, say it has two, and they fly with just one, and you need to make corrections with the rudder. Right? Okay. Oh yeah, I debated Adam Meakin too, and Flatzoid. He's not British, but he basically has to do whatever the Queen says anyway because he's South African. They know the Queen's dead.
I'd have to talk to the people who wrote this to confirm that they're talking about the wind. Anyway, I forgot to make a point. I forgot to make a point on the sun never setting on the flat Earth.
Hold on a second. Eugene Duke, Robert F. Oh, I'm going to say that wrong. Antonowitz and Keith D. Crambeer. Go contact him.
Right.
What?
Are they still alive?
Why not? This was written in 1987, 1988?
1988. Right? Possibly, yeah.
So let's look it up. Eugene L. Duke. Let's find out. I mean, it's just, I have no idea. There you go. Eugene Duke. 58 publications. This might be the same one. The very same Eugene Duke. Is he still around?
Well, there's some aircraft.
A general solution to the aircraft trim problem, August 2007. Well, that's not super recent, but recent enough. Right? There you go. Oh, is that him? Oh, I don't know if that's him or not.
He looks like a drunk.
All right. I don't know if that's him or not. But anyway, go ahead. And some of these other documents, I have found they have Facebook profiles. So there you go.
Okay, we're going to run out of time.
Oh my gosh. Many Karen says, take it from an expert. They still have a queen. Oh my gosh. All right. Let me, sorry. So we're getting down on time here. What was your other thing? Yeah, go ahead.
I want to make one point about the sun never setting. So what you're suggesting, you're not just calling out dumb flirts here. What you're suggesting is that for thousands of years on Earth, the top scientists around were all tricked because they all believed that the Earth was flat for how many years? We don't know how long the whole world has believed it lived on a globe.
What top scientists?
Well, I don't know. We're only told names that existed. But you've got to assume that there were top scientists on the Earth for thousands of years that were all tricked by a setting sun that could never set. I don't believe that for 1 minute.
One thing they did not have was Zoom. Right? So,
well, they had weak telescopes, yeah, but that was only the last few hundred years.
That was a couple hundred years ago. So it's been about 2,500 years since it was regularly held that the Earth was flat. So
I can't accept that.
Well, what's the book? I have a book.
There's people 100 years ago saying that they were taught flat Earth. I know that was
yeah, that was not taught in schools, maybe in Zion, Illinois, but outside of Zion, Illinois, it was not.
The figure of 2,500 years comes from the Eratosthenes thing, which is falsified by the distance of the sun. So
It was actually Pythagoras is one of the earliest. I do have, let's see, I have a page. It's kind of in progress.
We're only talking simple perspective. They would need to know the laws of perspective, not as
right.
they wouldn't need a P900,
right.
would they?
All right, so 495 BC Pythagoras is the earliest that I know of that spoke of the Earth being a sphere. Anyway, this book here, Inventing the Flat Earth, Columbus and Modern Historians, Jeffrey Burton Russell, he goes over in one of the chapters, he goes over the history of people, of the writings of people talking about the shape of the Earth being a globe. And so that page that I just showed has some of the input from here. Let's see, chapter 2 or 3. I don't know. I'm not going to go over it right now, but that's a good book. I actually, Jeffrey's still around kicking. I asked him if he wanted to have an interview, but he's in his 80s. He's like, I think my interviewing days are over. So, anyway, yeah, it goes to Pythagoras, and it's Eratosthenes is the way it's typically pronounced.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
anyway,
I always get that one wrong.
All right.
Eratosthenes. What the fuck was that? I don't...
that's how some people say it. I've certainly heard people say it, but
that's probably where I've got it from then. Okay. No. My problem is once 100 years passes, they can say what they want. We can't verify any of it. There's no witnesses. They lie about history. I'm absolutely certain they're lying in science, or half of it anyway. So you can't trust that they knew the Earth was a sphere 2,500 years.
You don't have to. You don't have to. You can just go measure it yourself.
I just don't. I can't accept that they were all tricked.
Right, forget that. Just go do the Eratosthenes measurement yourself. You can any day of the year that it's sunny. You can do the same thing.
No, he based it on the distant sun, so it's falsified.
How is it falsified?
Because well, you can this one I've done in my front room with a torch and 2 deodorant cans. You move the light source around and the shadows change. It's as simple as that.
It does, but do the trigonometry. You're gonna run into trouble there, aren't you, Al?
What difference does that make if this assumption was wrong?
Here's what I can do. You take your flashlight, you take your 2 deodorant cans. You measure the height of the deodorant can and the length of the shadow, right? And you put those on the same line. You got can, light somewhere up here, somewhere up high, right? You give me those things. I can tell you, I can solve all those things for you. I can tell you how high the light is, for example, on that flat surface. But the it's been falsified has not actually been falsified, because I personally tested it with my friend from Israel, and we tested like your 2 deodorant cans.
I've seen
and the math doesn't work. The math says no, the sun can't be at it's at 2 different elevations at the same time. So
it can't be at 2.
But Al, I don't want to, like, you said you can't do the trig, so you can't claim it's been falsified if you can't work through the trig. Right? I can do the trig, and I know you probably wouldn't trust me doing the trig because it's something, right? Something you can't do. There are skills that you have that I can't do, right? Everybody has things they're good at, and
yeah, of course.
So it's not a slight on somebody to not be able to do trig. It's when somebody does do the trig and they're just like, well, that's a problem, right? You can't just something you don't understand. You have to understand it,
no.
Right? Or have somebody else, and you've done great, and I commend you for that. Or have somebody else you do trust say, all right, is this trig right? Because I know that you're not going to give me crap about it. You're going to give me the answer. Or maybe you do it in a blind way. You say, all right, here's a trig problem. I've removed all context from it, can you just give me the answer to that? That's another way to do it. For somebody somebody you trust.
There's plenty of flat earthers that can do trig, but all I hear is, they're doing it wrong.
Name one.
Off the top of my head, I can only say Oakley off the top of my head, and he's talking about the flat plane trigonometry, and it's done on a flat plane. It's from a baseline of a flat plane.
I don't think Oakley can do trig.
I would imagine he can. It's only a formula.
He can. I don't think he
it's
can.
Only a formula.
All right. Anyway, I've got some super chats if you want to listen, or I don't know, or not. If you don't,
you got some what? Sorry, you got some what?
Some super chats. This is comments from the audience.
Oh, go on then. I don't care what they're saying. Go on.
All right. Let's see. Dave Kircher, it's about, if you've watched 18 debates, about Lake Titicaca. He says, Mank Mini Caca, it's Moon's Day. He's playing with words there. Jeff Stucco Riker says, prepared for a complete lack of challenge and evidence. Hey, I think we had a good talk.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be me schooling you on anything. I've come to listen, to try and learn, and to put my points across, without using other people, from my own mind, without copying what other people are doing. I've tried to do it from my own mind, and I've done the best I can, and I'm going to come back at some point with more. So right. I didn't think I was going to be able to come on so early in my debating career.
Well, if you're willing to, and I get people that just hand wave stuff, but if you're willing to look at things that I send you, you can ask me questions, but you can't just hand wave it. You can't go back to the cycle like, I just can't play, right? You can't do that. You gotta say, all right, I'll look into it, and I'll be glad to help you. I
know you respect that, because you respect that about Jaren. So
yeah. All right, the grumpy old mechanic says, Al, you can consider yourself destroyed. I don't know. I didn't think that was so the way it went.
No, you haven't been. You haven't destroyed me. You've been quite fair, actually. I've seen you destroy people many times. So, but that's usually because of their attitude. So.
Yeah, attitude makes a big difference. Amadeus Arkham says, "Let's do this. Alex is here for Al's tuning." That's Axis, a friend of mine I've been chatting with every once in a while here. Jeff Stucco Rikers again says, Al, why are you spotting all the same talking points that have been addressed before? Did you not do your own research? I'll say that you did not cover, if you watched my 18 most recent debates.
Most recent, no, I went back 4 years. I watched Russian vids. I watched Russian vids from 4 years ago.
Oh, Russian
That
vids.
was fun. I love Russian vids. He's not really a flat earther. He's a bit like me. He's not an out-and-out flat earther. He's a general truther, and he's a brilliant truther. But his flat earth is...
I would never use the word truther to describe him.
He's brilliant. No, he's brilliant.
Batman... What?
He's brilliant at the esoteric stuff. But that's my strength as well. But that's proof of nothing. But we know how this world works. We know how this world works, and it works. The people who run it in an esoteric way. They put the truth out there for eyes to see. I know this. Russian Vids knows this. We know that they put flat earth everywhere. There's flat earthers in REM Stand, in the famous song of theirs. You want to watch the video for that? It's literally a flat earth video.
Don't ruin Stand in the place where you are. Now face left.
Think about direction. Wonder why you haven't before.
That's, oh my gosh. All right. Batman says Batman. All right. Batman says MC Toon is the real Batman. True. And Caucasian.
There's a flat earth.
Go ahead.
Go on.
Caucasian Sensation says, why do I have hope for this, Flurf? This is strange. There you go.
Hope for what? That I'm gonna turn back to the globe.
I don't know. Maybe you'll evaluate it, and
I will if I can prove it. Yeah, if I can prove it's one big hoax, then yeah. But I don't think it is.
Oh, geez.
I've still got one more. I've still got one more small point to make. We are running out of time.
Yeah, we're at. Tell you what, let's do this. We're at 2 hours. I need to get going. I just got to read the super chats, and then go. So,
Let me just make one sentence. I spoke
right.
to a railway engineer. I found 2 companies and they didn't get back to me. But I actually found someone on Facebook who spoke to me who's done the design for overhead cables on railways for 27 years. His exact quote was, and I said I wouldn't name him. I said, look, I don't want to bring you unnecessary attention. And he's actually having problems at the minute. But his exact quote was, curvature of Earth is absolutely 100% not accounted for in any formula for design, construction, and maintenance of the railway infrastructure. The end. That's what he said. So I'm going to end on that.
Yeah, and that makes sense because it's all based on elevation above sea level, which is already a sphere or ellipsoid. So, all right.
The railways would have to adhere to the curvature formula, surely, which would be an ever expanding curve.
No, again, that goes back to this guy. This right. It's about elevation above mean sea level. So elevation is a change in the distance from the center. It's not curve. Curve is not elevation. So 8 inches per mile squared isn't something that is how they do curvature, right? They look at slopes, which is a increase or decrease in the distance from the center of the Earth.
From Liverpool to London is 212 miles. In the middle is Birmingham, where I live. Yeah. That would have to be two or 3 miles above. The station datum would have to be 2 or 3 miles above the other ones. It's on a curve. It's on a globe.
Because the datum is an ellipsoid. So it's relative to the surface of relative to the ellipsoid. So it's like 200 feet, 240 feet elevation higher at Birmingham, right?
Well, it'd be a couple of miles.
No. The elevation difference. The above mean sea level.
It would be way above the other 2 stations on each side.
Well, it would be above it because, well, it depends on where you are. Because, if you started at one coast of England and you went to the other coast of England, and in the middle, your elevation would be higher. But you're applying the curve and thinking it's a difference in elevation. And that's just not how to do it correctly. That's all. All right. Let me get these. Bill Tetley says, "Hey Toon, what's your 3x3 cube of choice?" Mine has been the Gone 365 Air since it came out. Also, the Eltan's Star is really fun. I just got what's kind of a cheap one on Amazon, so I don't really have a cube of choice. In fact, I don't know what this one's called. The only way I know about this one is because if I need to reorder it, I will go back to my saved order, my previous orders, and reorder the same one. And yes, NA, this is yours.
I've seen someone do that in about 5 minutes on YouTube. Amazing.
In 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Well, that's not very fast, actually.
Did you not? Wow.
No.
I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. Wow.
5 minutes is a little slow.
I can design a garden in my head, but I couldn't do that.
Yeah. All right. You want to come over here and design a garden at my house?
Well, actually, with the cost of travel at the minute, I don't think so.
Oh, that might be hard. All right. Here we go.
If you lived in the UK, maybe. No, I've done it for 25 years and I'm packing it in now because my back and my knees have gone. I didn't box clever. I did too much work.
You didn't
myself.
Box clever?
No, I didn't get everyone else doing the work for me because I just didn't like the idea of that. I didn't like the idea that I've always worked myself, but well done. That's amazing. I take my hat off to that.
All right. Stringers One says they must be Scottish hamsters. They're crap. This is when the hamsters were running the internet and I was having dropouts. M2M, who deals with space stuff a lot, he says NASA was not formed by Nazis. Von Braun did not start or ever run NASA. He was just an employee. It existed before him.
Just a Nazi employee. Okay, just a Nazi employee. That's fine.
But it doesn't change the shape of the Earth.
It doesn't, no. No, many things don't. Many
and,
things don't.
And yeah, and
It's
and
got to be measurable curvature or nothing, and that's what I'm going to concentrate on now.
Abso-smurfly. What at Randomly Epic says, what evidence would you accept?
It's got to be first hand. Got to be first hand. My own evidence. That's my best answer.
Okay.
Which I'm going to go and work on.
Yep. Well, don't invent new ways to do things. I always see flat earthers like, what if we do this? What if we do this? What if we... There's ways to do things that have been figured out before.
Putting a gyroscope on a boat.
Yeah,
the best thing.
That's not going to...
That's fine. That's fine. Other flat earthers will probably tell me the same. Right. I wanted to try and find a solution that didn't involve fucking refraction and atmospheric conditions that I could do myself and everyone else can do.
Yeah, and so you want to avoid refraction, and so getting to a higher elevation or doing things on an overcast day, you get a lot of those in England. Is a good way to do things.
Right.
BNS Lamb has a Hey You sticker for 20 Nokias, which is Norwegian kroners. Stop Faking says, radar tells us how far away the moon is. Do you not believe that radar works the way we know it works? It's a good question. Because people have bounced radar off the moon.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've never heard the sun one. I've heard the moon one, yeah. And I've heard the mirrors on the moon or something like that.
Yeah, radar is easier, though. You don't need mirrors for it. And, of course, ham radio operators, which there are plenty in England, do what they call EME, Earth, Moon, Earth. They'll send a signal to the moon, and then about 2 seconds later, they'll hear their own voice back. Yep.
You can read the nasty comments as well if you want. I've got thick skin.
I haven't gotten to any yet, so...
that's all right. I'm doing all right then.
Yeah, Mallory's Asylum. Mallory's a comedy flat earther. She says my Leapfrog has less lag than this stream. Yeah, her laptop is actually a Leapfrog, which is a laptop for kids. OMG sends 20 secs. That's Swedish kroners. To say to better fiber for you. That would be fiber for going to the bathroom better or internet speed. I hope internet speed. Nike Spitz says, why do I have to choose between watching you and Mr. Sensible? You win, and I'll watch Mr. Sensible's stream tomorrow. Next time, pick at least a different time. Good job in destroying the flurf. Oh, I didn't even know that I was going at the same time as Mr. Sensible. I would never choose to do that. Sorry, Mr. Sensible.
You got Iggy back on tomorrow, haven't you?
Iggy is tomorrow, yeah.
Oh, he was a nice guy. He was a nice guy.
He is what you call a nutter. Over there.
Well, so am I.
Oh no. He's in a whole different category. Navy,
you haven't seen my bloody side.
Navy Jet Fixer says it's Moonsday night. They're playing on tune. So Eddie Reese says it's always funny when a flurf claims to have new information, but instead just rehashes all the same FE tropes. Well, it was mostly the same stuff. I mean, you didn't get something new for me. I'll say that.
Well, no, there is new stuff, but it's only theoretical. All this crater Earth, and the moon is a reflection of the actual Earth, and all this stuff.
Vibes of the Cosmos is just an insane channel with all sorts of just what are they doing there? People
Divergent.
They're like, oh, this is all amazing. No, it's not. This is stupid. All right.
I've heard people say they've told me to watch it, and I'm going to have a look at it. Yeah, because I always give something a look. But,
oh my gosh.
Look, it's not the flat Earth model with the dome and the ice ball and the limited sort of land. There's probably more land. This place, I've no idea what it is, but it's an investigation, and it's been going for 10 years, and it hasn't been sorted yet, and it's got to be sorted because I ain't doing it for another 10. I ain't doing it for another 10 years.
All right, Robotom started in the 1800s. Instead of evidence, Janusz says instead of evidence. You only got another Fleur starter kit and probably bingo. I didn't even play bingo. Oh my goodness.
You know what? You didn't give me any cards either. I didn't get any yellow cards.
Oh, these cards?
Yes.
you didn't go for all the fallacies. So all right, hold on. I'll have to fill this out later.
And I didn't call you a liar.
Nope, you didn't. You didn't go religious flurf
That-
on me. So
No, look. Can I get you to admit one thing that's positive about this whole flat Earth thing? Can I? Because I know you don't like conceding anything whatsoever.
that you're asking for
Can
something.
I get you to can I
Let's
get
hear
you
it.
to concede one thing and be the flat earther that made you concede something?
Let's see. All right.
Flat Earth has brought millions and millions of people back to creation, which is the truth, and that's a brilliant thing. Good night.
I don't think so. You're not. I think your numbers are off. I will say
Millions?
no, not millions.
There's not millions of flat earthers. You're kidding.
No. I will say that there are certainly some flat earthers that seem to have found religion other than the flat earth religion through flat earth, but not big numbers of them, I'd say.
I've been way more open to the Bible and things like that since flat earth. Way more spiritual. It's done wonders for me. So I'm happy with it, and I'm sure a lot of people are happy with being brought back to the truth of creation. Because Monkey Men, Big Bang, it's just a big lie. And how am I supposed to trust their other science when they're lying about that? You're saying, oh, that's biology and this is physics. Well, no, physics is the Big Bang, and it's a load of bollocks. So,
all right.
They're lying.
So we've got Larry Scott says Lacoste Romberg microgalcost.com. So here's microgalcost.com. And these are the gravimeters. I'll send it to you. Or the fancy accelerometers. Right. So here's an absolute gravity meter. And this works. This big device here on the right side is the actual device that's doing the measurement. It's dropping something inside there. It's temperature controlled, and it is an evacuated chamber, and it's electrically shielded. So all of these things that they've done to prevent not tampering, but confounding variables. There you go. That was from Larry Scott, who is a surveyor. So, how is it that these things here measure variations in the downward acceleration all over the Earth? How is it that it works? And it's not like, oh, that's just some student doing what they're told. They don't know the number that it's supposed to be before they go there. They set that up. They do the measurement, and then they record the results of it. There's nothing that they're feeding into it. So
I can't just believe it, I'm afraid. So not happening.
All right. Well, go get yourself one. I'm sure you can. They're pretty expensive, but
I think I'll get the P9. I think I could get the P1000 before that.
There you go.
I need to get that one again.
So, Abdef says, yeah, gravimeters are controlled by the Illuminati.
Well, Freemasonry. Illuminati's cover story.
But what about the French mimes? See, they're really the ones. French mimes. Jiffy Cone says, now I know what you're thinking, but I don't know where to find frog-sized negligees.
That's gone straight over my head, that one.
That's a good question there. NA says that every sunset debunks Flatardia.
No, every cloudy day proves that the sun can set on the flat Earth. Them lovely fluffy clouds you can see going off into the distance, layering down and down and down and down, just like the sun would do. It's just the sun takes all day because it's a lot higher. The clouds move pretty quickly because they're lower.
Oh my gosh. Aaron Reese says, you mean the sun doesn't suddenly expand apocalyptically every time it hits my dirty windshield? That's a load off my mind. You ever driving into the sun with a bunch of mess on your window? Yeah. Borg Emporia
when you run out of water.
Oh yeah. Or if it's frozen. it's frost. Borgamporia says you should open a gallery at the Smithsonian with your artwork of explaining things to Flurf. I would go see that gallery. I've got a full notebook. This one, let's see. This one is almost full. There you go. Well, you're not seeing it much. Hold on. Let me see if I can do better. It's going to be upside down. There you go. There you go. Lots of stuff. Rayleigh criterion. All right. There you go. So PhD Tony says, so Wolfie is the Australian, is he? I get it. No, I'm not crying. PhD Tony is Australian.
Another Australian.
He's hurt that he didn't know that you didn't know him. Miss Mandy 777 says, good to see you, MC Toon. Just saying hi. Thank you, Mandy. PhD Tony again says, to be fair, no one debates Spurs. Any time spent talking with Spurs counts as community service.
777's a red flag, whoever that was.
Why?
Crowley fan.
I think it predates Crowley by a lot. PhD Tony says, does your guest understand that there are people whose job it is to observe and measure the shape of the Earth and its gravitational field? People rely on that. There you go. Judy Bassett says, losing any respect for this guy. Uh-oh, you're going to have to gain it back. Dolly88 says, so according to this guy, World War I can't have happened since it happened more than 100 years ago. What year did World War I end?
1945, yeah, but we don't know the truth about it.
World War I.
Sorry, World War I ended in 1918.
Ooh, good. All right. And what happened in 1919?
Oh, England lost the World Cup semi-final. That's about all I can remember from 1990.
I would have accepted Eddington measured light bending. I would have also accepted that Shell's Brewery invented root beer. But I don't think I think that's apocryphal. 1919 is the best root beer. That's what I say.
I never tasted it. They used to sell it in McDonald's. Yeah.
Oh.
Root beer in the 80s.
Cyberdyne Big Toe says, I still think the adult Beavis looks a lot like you. Not being derogatory, just pointing it out. Ask the watchers to vote if he looks like you. All right. Do I look like... Oh my gosh. Adult Beavis. All right. Answer honestly. It's okay. Peachy Tony says he has a garden in his head. That could explain it. Slithery says curve was accounted for in the London tube tunnels. Did you know that? Look that one up on your spare time. Icy Spin says, can you explain the photo of the moon I took? All right, hold on. I'll show you real quick. I haven't brought it up for a while, so.
The moon's got about 10 different colors, which I don't remember from my childhood, but all sorts of weird things happening with the moon just lately.
Maybe your childhood was not in Technicolor. All right, I'll show you this quick. There you go. Took this photo of myself. That's the moon, and that's eye level across the crossbar in the center there. MB says Al says Al is an unfortunate pigeon desperately trying to learn not to crap on the chessboard in front of the champion player.
That's nice. I like it.
You tricked me into saying that about myself. I would not say that. Randomly Epic says, if you just can't believe it, have fun redoing all science on your own. The rest of us will keep the world moving forward. Ableist says, will Flurfs ever give evidence for flat Earth? No, they won't.
Yes, I did. Water. It's very simple.
You need to
The
show
evidence
the
is
measurements up.
refuted.
You got to show them.
The
You're
character-
planning to do the measurements. You haven't done that yet, so do the measurements. The grumpy old mechanic says, why does every university library have hundreds of feet of shelf space devoted to astronomy and geophysics journals?
Because the lie is very big. It's the whole world, and it's fooling the whole world.
It's always.
So
it's
I
always
don't
that.
expect. I expect the lie to be well protected
But
and
here's
well thought out.
something for you to consider. You can't. You're not like into math. You can't do the math. Astronomy is a ton of math, right? And so these people that are super good at math do astronomy. You can't do astronomy. They can, and they're like, they didn't. Somehow, knowing the math, they didn't uncover it. But you, not knowing math, are the one that uncovered it. Maybe check yourself.
Well, we're trying to deal with reality, not math, which is helpful and descriptive, but it's not reality.
True, but it with the application of math, we can test things, right? Without math, you don't know how fast your car's driving, right?
That sort of stuff's provable to ourselves.
So can the fact that the sun could never set on flat Earth. All right. Oh no, as Andy says, stick to gardens because you deny truth. Creationism isn't stupid and only helps to make you look like a plonker. Go to coast and watch large ships.
Plonker, that's a real English word.
That sound, yeah. Oh no, it's Andy. Sounds like he's from across the pond like you.
Ah, well, that's why then. Yeah. Only fools and horses. You get that in America.
I tried watching it. I could not get the humor.
Okay, well that is America, yeah.
I tried watching Peaky Blinders.
Oh, yeah.
But the accent was so hard I couldn't get it.
Oh, fucking hell, Peaky Blinders. What's all this about this flat Earth, eh? What's all this about flat Earth?
Exactly.
Are they having a laugh?
But I can watch Doctor Who. And 8 out of 10 cats does Countdown. I love that. Regular Countdown is boring after watching that. Industrial Nerd says, when are you having Flat Earth Poetry Night? And then the final one is from Astronaut 66L. Do you think perhaps that rockets appear to go down toward the horizon as they move away from you, kind of like the sun does? Ooh. Brought that back in your back around. What do you think?
I think NASA are mocking the shit out of us to our faces. You're never ever gonna turn me on NASA. Bloody Nora. I've seen enough to know it's not realistic. It's not realistic. It's just discernment. You don't always need facts, proofs, figures.
Do you know a guy named Seek Truth, Speak Truth?
No. Heard the name.
He is from somewhere in your area, as far as I know, and he used to be a flat earther. Tell you what, how about I connect you with him? He's a pretty good guy. And I'll how about that? Right. Would you talk with him? All right.
Yeah.
Let me finish the poll.
What, you mean he's from the UK or he's from the Midlands?
Yeah, he's.
I'm right in the middle of the UK. Right in the literally, it's called the dead centre of the UK.
Yeah, what's
right
it called?
In the middle.
What's it called?
Coventry. Okay. It's near Birmingham. Birmingham's the known. That's the big town, like the big city. Sorry, in the middle of England, and Coventry's just off it, 20 miles away. You spoke to someone not so long ago called Lee No Curve. Yeah,
I did
in the asylum.
Okay.
Lee No Curve, and he turned up pissed and stoned, and called you the C word.
Yeah,
it wasn't clown or con man either.
Okay.
It was a C word that got him chucked, basically.
Oh yeah.
On the asylum, made me chuckle, but he's from really local to me.
All right. The grumpy mechanic comes in for one more. Says, why hasn't this critter sued libraries for defrauding tax buyers by promoting globalo lies? There you go.
What did he call me? A critter.
A critter.
Oh, lovely.
Critter. I don't know. Is that a British thing?
It's like an insect. Yeah, Critter's
Yeah.
like an insect or
All
a
right.
grasshopper
Oh my
or something.
gosh.
Thanks a lot.
156 votes. 58% say that it looked like a adult Beavis. And with that, we're
end the
going to
show.
wrap it up. Tomorrow, I've got Iggy. Al, thank you for coming on. Maybe we can have
Thanks.
another chat sometime.
Yes, I will come back loaded next time.
Loaded?
Yeah.
Well,
You
too
still
much Toonshine, huh?
Mason's Jar.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What year was it made?
1933, of course.
Unbelievable. Good night.
All right, bye, everybody. Clarence AS2 says in UK slang, if nobody likes you, you've been sent to Coventry. And the Copper and Quarter says, I just wanted to say, praise the almighty Lake Titicaca, Scrotum Frog.